Liverpool are bad this season. The Clippers are bad this season. How do I do it? How do I report on both? How do I follow both? How do I be a fan of both and report on it at the same time when things aren't going so well, when it feels like all you can talk about is bad things? This is a question that I get asked a lot doing what I do, especially now that I'm a freelancer. Does it completely dictate my life? Do I wake up on a Monday morning completely beside myself because I'm going to have to spend a week talking about how the Reds lost another game at the weekend, or how the Clippers last week went on a 0-3 streak in the NBA? It is of course something I have to give a lot of time and a lot of thought to, but I want to sort of explain to you how I cope with that and how this is still the best job in the world for me, especially doing it as a freelancer where I get to decide my own time. So come and enjoy a brew with me. It's the Sport Tea. I want to make this a slightly slower episode today. I think when I started doing these, I wanted them to be slower generally anyway. One of the things that I worry about when I'm talking, especially when I'm talking on Anfield Rap podcasts and other things I do, is how quick I talk, how sometimes I sound a bit breathless and things like that. And I kind of wanted to use the Sport Tea as a platform to really slow down my speech, slow down my thoughts when I am talking, and kind of use this platform for positive change, which I think can help my career in turn. I don't pay an awful lot of attention to bad comments. There's that many of them down the years, and I'm not someone who I would claim has haters or anything like that, but there's been that many bad comments down the years. If I was to let it impact me, I wouldn't still be doing the job I am, and I certainly wouldn't have gone freelance in doing the job that I do, because obviously now it's sort of I don't know if hand to mouth is the right expression, but all the money I earn goes on paying the mortgage and all these different bills that life brings. So I am keen to continually improve. I'm keen to continually improve the Sport Tea, the podcasts that I do between the Anfield Rap, Crossover the Pond, The View from the Clipper, and more. I want to get better as a journalist, as a member of the media, as fan media. All these different kinds of strands are things that I want to get better in. So I thought I'd talk a little bit today about football and faith, but how it pertains to my job as well. There's actually a piece I wrote for the Anfield Rap back in February 2021. If you're a fan of Liverpool, you may remember this time, because Liverpool were bad. They were way worse than they are at the moment, although they've not been great, I know, this season. I completely understand that, but this was also came with the sort of double whammy of COVID restrictions at the time. So Liverpool, I think, lost 6 home games in a row, was it? I don't think I've written that in the piece. I've just read back through the piece to sort of give myself a refresher, but Liverpool had lost a lot of games of football during this time. The one that I do reference within this is Liverpool 1, Manchester City 4, which was a huge blow, really. There's a picture that I think is from Southampton maybe beating us. So it was a really bad time to be a Liverpool fan, and it sort of got me thinking, because of the COVID restrictions and how we weren't allowed into Anfield and all these different things that I guess kind of make up my support. And this all threads into my answer to the question of what do I do when Liverpool are bad, when the Clippers are bad, and I have to spend the week reporting on it? Does it make me sad? Does it impact me more than anybody else who has, I guess, a more normal job, in the sense that they can just go to work, maybe get a bit of, stick from their colleagues for a couple of days, but then broadly forget about it. And when they're at home with their, partners and their kids, or if they're at home by themselves, they can kind of do something else to occupy their time, rather than what I have to do, which is kind of just throw myself into it and cope with it on the fly, really, or use the things that I do, the media appearances that I have, as a kind of free therapy, I guess, to be able to process the sadness of whatever has happened. And of course, all this comes within perspective, and I write this in this piece, and this piece is going to sort of form part of the Patreon post that this goes out as part of. So if you are watching this on YouTube, I'll make sure there's no description to this video. It'll just be the link to this article, which will be live on my Patreon. It'll be repurposing of the one that I wrote for the Anfield Rap back in 2021. But really, I sort of wanted to point towards that, because one of the things that I kind of subscribe to in my level of spirituality, and by the way, when I speak to people about religion, I say these same things. I've got friends who are religious, whether they are, Muslim, Catholic, anything sort of in between or around that, really. I have people ask me if I'm religious, and I say, like, I'm not necessarily religious. I am spiritual in the sense I believe there is like a higher power, and bear with me here, I'm sorry about this, but I wanted it to kind of be, a slower and more just like purposeful episode, this one. So like I believe that there is a higher power. I believe that there is something bigger than all of us. I believe that what you put into the enterprise is what you get back out of it in kind. And I guess the way that pertains to my love of Liverpool specifically, and the thing that I write in this piece, is that like when Liverpool play, sometimes like some of the nights that I've witnessed like couldn't be explained by anything other than divine intervention. And I know that will sound like ridiculous to some people. Some people will just go, oh no, it wasn't that Mo Salah was out and wore like a t-shirt about coming back or something. I can't remember what the t-shirt said now looking back. It was because Xherdan Shaqiri is still a very talented footballer. It's because Divock Origi is still a very talented footballer. All these footballers are so talented, and they are more than some of their parts because of Jurgen Klopp. But by the way, Jurgen Klopp is a man of faith. Alisson Becker, who I don't know if he was in goal that night actually, but he's a man of faith. Mo Salah, a big man of faith. A lot of these Liverpool players are, and they use their faith as ways to, sort of channel when times are bad. To be able to gain perspective, to look up to, whoever their higher power is and say, I trust this process because I know there is going to be a better day to come, and this is just your way of preparing me for this better day to come. And I subscribe to that same thing, really, that if there's ever sort of bad things happen in my life, and I've gone through grief, I've gone through, moments even in doing this as a freelance career where I've questioned myself, where what I've wanted hasn't exactly came to me straight away. It's not come to fruition straight away in the way that I'd have hoped. The start of my freelance career was quite slow, to be honest. There wasn't a lot of work forthcoming. There wasn't a lot of money coming in, which again, when things are, hand to mouth, again, I don't know if that's the right expression, but when I have to pay the mortgage, when I have to keep this roof over my head, like that becomes a concern. And basically during that time, the way that I got through that was to believe that the universe was just putting me on this path to make me work harder, really, to make me throw myself into more things. I started pitching to more people, more of the contacts that I have within the industry, and then suddenly once I'd like pitched a couple of things, more work just sort of snowballed off the back of that, really. And now I feel like I'm in a much better position, more comfortable position, I should say, in this freelance journey, which has been good, because it's not been a long time of me doing it. I only started it in August, but this being the point where it turns around is well timed with Christmas and everything like that coming up. So I believed during those bad moments that something good was going to come, that again the universe was sort of putting me on this path because it wanted me to take some lessons from this or take heed of something from this. And those footballers believe that. They believe that when times are bad, like look at Alisson Becker and the way he celebrates his goal that he scores, for example. Like, he just lost his father and he's like looking up to the skies and almost thanking God, because he's like, I know that you put the challenges at my door because you're trying to keep me on this sort of path of faith, and then you repay me with these moments. And listen, that sounds ridiculous to some people, because losing your father is not akin to scoring an important goal for Liverpool Football Club. But to Alisson Becker, this is his job. Like, the highs that he has in football are akin to the highs that we have in our career. And if you like have a career that you love, and those highs are like a great moments for you in your life, and you'll be able to relate to that experience that Alisson Becker has gone through. And those good times make the bad times worth it ultimately. And it's not to say that the bad times aren't all consuming at times. I'm sure Alisson Becker was very consumed by the death of his father, for example. I'm sure that Liverpool players this season, you've seen Andy Robertson's interview the other day about Diogo Jota. This sadness consumes these footballers, of course it does, and we'd all do well to remember that, because we aren't elite athletes, but we still have to perform and show up for people in everyday life when we're going through grief, and we just don't have to do it on a world stage, and we don't have so many critics and all those kinds of things when we're going through that. So we do well to remember that as well. But the reason that we stick around in those moments where things aren't going well, the reason that we believe and continue to have faith when things aren't going well, is because of that promise of a brighter day around the corner. And during that COVID lockdown when the Reds were really bad, like the thing I was looking forward to so much was like just get me back in Anfield. Like not being in Anfield is the thing that's killing me the most here, because Liverpool are losing and I'd love to just get behind these lads and I'd love to be with my mates to discuss it, rather than having to do it through group chats, and we're all more angry because we're angry at the circumstances of what's going on around us at the moment. We're angry at the Reds because we can't sort of get in the ground and shake them up and do everything that we can. It was just this kind of silence that was the soundtrack to just bad Liverpool performances around that time. And it was a very strange time to live through, and it made me question, why I follow football. And it comes back to that original point I made where, when people ask me, how do you do this? Like, how do you write about Liverpool all week, or talk about Liverpool all week, or write about the Clippers all week, or talk about the Clippers all week when they're playing badly and all you want to do is switch off? And the answer is, I kind of just get on with it, because there's always going to be a brighter day around the corner. I am fully invested in this next iteration of whatever the Clippers do with their basketball team. I think the Reds have so much talent that there's no way they can't succeed at some point, whether this is this season or in the seasons to come. And I still think they can achieve a lot this season, by the way, not necessarily with the league title, but, the Champions League and things like that. So there's still loads to play for, and that promise of a brighter day is what keeps me going, that belief in a higher power, the belief that there is something here bigger than me. This isn't just about me and my support for Liverpool or for the Clippers. There's something that's bigger than me. Of course, me this season is I have to pay the bills, so I kind of have to just crack on, and those Liverpool players this season with Diogo Jota and Alisson Becker, when his father passed away, will have probably had that same sort of conversation with themselves, obviously on a much more extreme scale, but have that internal conversation where you're like, well, this is the worst thing I can imagine, but at some point I have to get back to something resembling normal, because this is bigger than me. This is an enterprise that people are relying on me for. From my personal point of view, this freelance career, the roof over my head relies on me working to be able to stay in place. So there's so many different strands to this, and I always say that when I reference my spirituality to people who are religious, is that the reason I'm not, I don't subscribe to the idea of a God, for example, is because I don't necessarily like the disciplines that come along with religion. There's a really good J. Cole lyric where he talks about one of his friends telling him about the Quran and trying to put him on, and he says he read a few pages and recognised the wisdom with it, but he didn't have the discipline to stick with it. And that's kind of how I feel. I don't like the idea that tradition just negates what should say, predicates what I should do in my life. I should be able to make my own choices. I should be able to have my own relationship with my faith, and that's kind of what believing in just this higher power, and I always just call it the universe really, but believing in that allows me to do it, allows me to have my own relationship with it, where no one can really tell me what my spirituality means to me. My spirituality means to me what it means to me. It's my own personal relationship with it. There's not and again, no disrespect to people who are religious, no disrespect to the Bible or the Quran or whatever, but there's not a book as holy as you can consider that book to be. There's not a book which tells me the things that I have to live by. I get to decide that myself, and that is where my own relationship with my faith comes into it. And that's the same with Liverpool. I get to support Liverpool in whichever way I want, really. There's no person that can tell me, no one can say, oh, you're a wool, you shouldn't be in Anfield and stuff. I'm still going to go to Anfield every other week. There's no one can thread my support through any kind of bottleneck. I'm always going to be there and supporting in whichever way I like to support Liverpool Football Club, and whichever way my relationship with Liverpool sort of predicates as well. So I recommend you read the piece because it kind of encapsulates for me that idea of faith and football. I referenced at the start, I listen to a lot of gospel music, and I still do, by the way. There's a video I always go back to of a band called the Walls Group who went on a show called The Terrell Show with Terrell Grice, which is just a silly song association where Terrell says a word and they have to sing a song with that word in it. But the way they talk about faith, the way they sing, the songs are so positive, and it's just this reminder constantly, no matter how bad things feel, there's always a brighter day around the corner, because in their eyes that's God that's doing that for them. In my eyes, it's just the universe is giving you a few tests at the time because it's building you up to something better. And that applies the same with my working relationship. Really, my relationship with my work is that I believe there's always going to be a better day to come. I believe the harder I work, there'll be a better day to come. And really, the harder I work, the easier this gets, really, like the more sort of therapy I can have, where, you know, I am talking to like-minded people about Liverpool or the Clippers or these kinds of things, and you get more sort of reassurance in that sense too, I think. So listen, we all have our own methods of grief and of coping with things, and I think we're realising that more than ever this season, that Andy Robertson was like I think a timely reminder, really an poignant reminder of the fact that we are all on this grief timeline with Diogo Jota, and how we cope with that, like in different stages. Like we all have our own relationship with that grief and with our own coping mechanisms, and no one can really tell each other how to grieve or how to cope, and that's difficult because we are all grieving in like a bigger group than you generally grieve in. But the reason we're all committed to this process, and the reason why Andy Robertson, I'm sure, is committed to this process, is because he's now doing it for something bigger than him. He's doing it for the memory of Diogo Jota. He's, you know, that's one of the things he says is pride of going to the World Cup is because he's doing this for Diogo now. So there is that something that's bigger and better than him. There is that brighter day around the corner, which is, you know, that Scotland game, which was incredible, or just being at the World Cup as Scotland captain when he thought, you know, maybe he'd already played his last World Cup as a Scotland player. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it has come across a little slower. Again, I'm just going to try and like do this over time. I'm always trying to improve these things. So these videos, I should say. So I really appreciate any feedback that people do have, because I want this to be the platform that sort of like I can use almost like my own thing to improve the other areas of my career, which aren't necessarily my own thing, which either like I share with somebody else, or it's, you know, the Anfield Rap, which is a bigger sort of enterprise than just me, albeit I've been a big part of its journey and things like that. I want to use this to be able to improve those other areas too, because that's something that's really important to me, is that self-improvement, that self-reflection, and working, because, you know, working on myself, working on all different kinds of areas of my life allows me to, you know, work towards that goal, like there is going to be a better tomorrow, and to give a better tomorrow to not just, you know, myself, but to my kids in the future, and all these different kinds of things, to, you know, try and build a sort of better world for as many people as possible, not just me, really. And that's why I subscribe to the level of spirituality or faith that I do, and it's why I believe really in the politics that I believe in as well. But I'll leave it there at risk of waffling, but yeah, I appreciate all the support that people have been giving me on this freelance journey. I appreciate all the opportunities that I've been given on this freelance journey. I'm excited to keep going and keep striving to improve, keep striving for that better tomorrow. If you've liked this, please do leave a like on the video. If you're watching this on YouTube, let me know down in the comments what you thought of it. Please subscribe to the channel as well. Subscribe to my Patreon and help me on this freelance journey, because I ultimately can't do any of this without the support of other people, really. And that again is that idea of like subscribing to something that's bigger than just me, really. And I'm not saying like in any kind of like shilling way, by the way. If you don't want to pay me money, absolutely fine. You just watching this video, you being here, you leaving likes, leaving comments, and subscribing in free ways helps me just as much. So yeah, I appreciate everybody who is coming along on this journey with me. It's going to be an interesting one. I hope Liverpool and the Clippers can turn it around in the short term. I'm confident they both will in the longer term, and that there will be brighter days to come, because it's not the faith that kills us or the hope that kills us. It's the hope and the faith that sustains us. And on that note, I'll leave that with you. Thanks for enjoying a brew with me here on the Sport Tea. Up the Reds, and go Clips go.